All right, guys, so this module is going to be all about Express. Now, Express is a Node framework. So do you remember in previous modules, we learned that we could add jQuery onto our JavaScript to add extra features and make it easier working with JavaScript? Well, Express does the same thing for Node. It's a framework, or basically a bunch of code that somebody else wrote that adds extra features and helps to organize and structure your code specifically for web applications built with Node. Now, in the last module, we said that Node.js was made to basically liberate JavaScript from the browser and allow programmers to use JavaScript to interact with the computer directly, for example, on a server. And that means it has a broad scope. It's a low-level technology that allows you to interact directly with the hardware of the computer. Now, that means that you can create desktop applications using Node. For example, Atom, what we've been using so far to edit and write our code, is actually built on Electron, which is built on Node. So the scope of Node.js is really, really broad. Now, Express does something really specific. Now, an example of this might be that you could own a single Phillips screwdriver and you can screw all the screws you want using it, right? Any type of screw. So that's Node. It lets you interact with the computer any way you like. But as we know, if you've done a lot of DIY work, screwing in screws manually using a Phillips screwdriver can get pretty tiring, and you're really at risk of repetitive strain injury, especially if you have a lot of IKEA furniture. So that means in certain cases, for specialized uses, for example, if you're doing a lot of DIY, then you might need a motorized screwdriver. And that's basically Express. It was built to make you write less repetitive code when you're building web applications, and it's made specifically for web developers. So sometimes using Express versus using Node straight out of the box, you're saving yourself 5 to 10 times the amount of code that you have to write, and therefore a lot of time as well. And we programmers hate repetition, so Express is really, really popular. In fact, if you go onto npm.com and you scroll down, you'll see that the most depended upon packages include Express. And if you have a look at the state of JavaScript, which is this annual survey for JavaScript programmers, you can see that when they surveyed these people on the backend frameworks, even they talk about it, people really depend on Express. And if you have a look at this graph, you can see that I've used it before and I would use it again, is massive for Express, whereas it can't really be said for the other sort of frameworks that help you to do the same thing. So it's a really, really big deal in the Node web development community. And this is what we're going to be learning in this module. Now, let's go ahead and build a real server using Node and Express to see how we can get our server to start running code on the server side and start doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so we learn how to build a proper backend for our websites. So once you're ready, head over to the next lesson.